Hi, I'm Rachel Tyndall. I'm a content writer and a content marketer for Tetra Prime Consulting.
Hi, I'm Mark Wilhelm. I'm also a content writer and a content marketer with Tetra Prime. And this video, we're going to be talking about the inciting incident in a story. So every story begins in a state of balance. We might call this the prologue or the introduction or sometimes the setup. Essentially, the setting and and more importantly, the characters for the story are introduced, and we get a sense for what the world is like and who these characters are and what their place within the world is. But then something happens that upsets this balance, and this is what the inciting incident is. The inciting incident is an event that creates imbalance in the protagonist's life, which launches the action of the story. And so this is the action that gets the story moving. If we don't have the inciting incident, then there's no tension for the protagonist, and without tension, there isn't a story. So the inciting incident does four main things for the audience of the story. First, it captures their attention. So this is the event that makes us lean forward in our seats, so to speak. Change and conflict are naturally interesting. So a sudden shift in the story makes us take notice of what's going on. Second, the inciting incident raises the major dramatic question of the story, which is always some variation of how is this going to end? Now that we have some imbalance in the story, the audience is naturally curious about how the imbalance is going to be resolved. Third, the inciting incident generates suspense. So this happens because the audience feels empathy for the protagonist of a well-told story. We like the protagonist, and because we like them, we hope that the story is going to turn out well for them. And that hope makes us feel suspense over the possibility that it might not end well for them. And then fourth, the inciting incident creates an image in our mind of what has to happen before the story can end. So we've seen how the protagonist's life has become imbalanced, and we begin to imagine what needs to happen in order to restore that balance. So we form an idea of the actions that need to take place before the story can end in a satisfying way. And sometimes you might hear this talked about in terms of the obligatory scene in the story. So basically the scene that has to happen to resolve everything. And so now I'm going to hand it back over to Rachel to talk about the inciting incident in Inside Out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mark, for that introduction piece. There's a lot of different things about the inciting incident that's important to know before we talk about Inside Out, because Inside Out's a little tricky. So our protagonist in Inside Out is Joy, and Joy is intimately connected to Riley. The imbalance in Riley's life begins with the move to San Francisco, even though Joy is doing her best to hold everything and everyone together. So the inciting incident for Joy comes during the scene with the preparation for the first day of school. So Joy wakes up all the other emotions by playing an accordion in a way that most of us would probably consider obnoxiously energetic in the morning. Once all of the other emotions are awake, Joy gives them each a task to work on. Sophia is making a list of all the things that could happen on the first day of school. Disgust is making Riley look good, but blend in, of course. Anger is unloading the potential daydreams in case of a boring day. And sadness's job is to just stand in this tiny little circle and read the instruction manuals for the long-term memory, mainly so she won't get in the way of the other emotions. Joy's job, of course, will be to run the console and keep Riley happy all day long. And so everything seems pretty normal until the teacher calls on Riley for the first class. Of course, panic sets in as it does when you're in a new school on the first day and the teacher calls on you. And Riley timidly answers a little bit. And at first, it's a good memory about hockey back in Minnesota. But all of a sudden, the happy memory turns sad. The other emotions look back and realize that sadness has left her circle and touched the happy memory. While all the other emotions try to remove the sad memory and cheer Riley up, Riley starts crying at school. This is one of the worst things that can happen to a new kid, especially in middle school. As the other emotions try to remove the sad memory, sadness begins to take over the console and direct Riley's actions, which causes the first sad core memory to be created. So when Joy runs to remove that first sad core memory before it joins the others, she's initially just going to put it down into long-term memory where Riley will forget about it. However, sadness tries to stop her, and that results in all of the core memories getting knocked out of the place in Riley's mind. And it deactivates all of Riley's islands of personality, which is clearly problematic for somebody standing in the middle of a classroom. So, Joy tries to put the core memories back in their place, right? They're all running around and scrambling to try to fix this. And Sadness tries to put the sad core memory back in as well. But Joy knocks her out of the way, and the sad core memory is sucked up into the tube that goes down into long-term memory, even though Sadness tried to save it. So a happy memory is also getting sucked up, which Joy tries to catch, and then Joy gets sucked up too. And because Sadness is so close to all these events happening, she gets sucked up too, and Riley doesn't all of a sudden have any joy or sadness to help her control her actions and thoughts. So her life is in complete imbalance, if you can imagine life without happiness or sadness. So, in terms of the formal aspects of the inciting incident, this sequence captures the attention not just because of the scuffle between emotions, but the question of how does one live and make decisions without joy and sadness? It definitely makes the viewers wonder how the heck the problem's going to be resolved. What happens to Riley? There's plenty of suspense in questions like, where are joy and sadness? What happens to Riley now? Will joy and sadness ever get back up into headquarters and help Riley grow up? And finally, it creates the expectation that for the movie to end, we need to see joy and the core memories return so that we can feel that Riley is balanced and happy once again.